All right, before I get into this podcast and start talking about all this stuff, if you're watching this on YouTube, just note that I am wearing sunglasses and I'm just feeling the vibe today. So you're going to enjoy it and just watch me with my sunglasses. All right, those of you know I took a break for a couple of months on my main channel, and that was because I felt a bit burnt out just as a business owner and as a parent, and I'm just like balancing all these different things, and I just felt burnt out. So being a mother is a job in itself, I'll say that, and having a business and trying to balance that at the same time was a wee bit difficult, and I think that all kind of combined into one big thing where I just got burnt out. Now, today we're going to talk about this in general. We're going to talk about being burnt out. I'm going to, kind of refer to me as a parent, but also referring as a business owner. So if you're feeling burnt out, this is the podcast for you. So for the past couple of months, I felt burnt out creatively and just, mentally. I couldn't really focus anymore. And I was just having a hard time getting motivated and getting into the groove of things. And I'm still having a hard time doing that. It's like today, for example, I have to do this podcast and I felt a little bit demotivated. Is that the word? I think that's the word. And I felt demotivated and I just didn't want to do anything. I just didn't want to do it, to be totally honest with you. But I felt in my head, you got to do this. I have goals in my head, and I say to myself, if I can reach that goal today, I've got that. I just hate not doing something in the day. So for me to stroke one thing off the list is really helpful. Now, I explained in my main YouTube channel, like the main video, why I think all of this kind of happened, and you can go watch that, and I'm not going to get into all those details again, but I just want to give a little advice today, talk about feeling burnt out basically as a human being, because as human beings we have multiple things going on in our minds and multiple things going on around us. So I wanted to give some advice today just about how I kind of dealt with it and what you could do, basically. So let's chat about this. So the first thing basically was my mind was stressed out. I was just stressed out. I couldn't, I think that was the biggest thing. I was constantly in a state of, this anxiety and stress and worrying about things. And it's funny, the other day I looked at the channel analytics and it kind of triggered the stress, that trigger again. I was like saying to myself, what is going on here? And it stems back to whenever I had that little burnt out moment. I was looking at my data, and I love looking at my data, but for some reason, during that time, I just was triggered by it. Again, I was triggered. So even when I got triggered a little bit, I started to stress out, and my heart kind of got racing. And whenever you have anxiety about something and you worry about something, and if you do have anxiety, you'll know this, is that you get that little bit of an emotion over it, and it just triggers something in your mind, and your body starts to take control of itself and do its own thing. Now, this is something I'm going to have to work through. That trigger I need to work through each time and say to myself, what is the positive outcome on this? And it's not about the negative. And I think that's what I focus on every time I look at my analytics now. I'm kind of triggered and I'm saying, oh, there's going to be a negative. There's going to be someone saying, oh, you're this, you're that. And I think that's the main thing that I took away from that, is that I'm looking at it negatively, but I need to look at the positive. And I'm not even that big of a channel. And I think for me, I need to figure out in my own mind what I need to do for that. Now, the second thing that was happening was I was growing to dislike my passion. I was super passionate. Hi, Donut. I'm talking here to my viewers. Can you give me a moment? You have food in your bowl, please. Thank you. I was not liking my passion anymore, and I don't know what happened there. Last year I was gung-ho, all in with it, and I loved it so much, and I still love it, but it's almost got a bad taste in my mouth from it. I love the fact that you can use social media to bring awareness to your business, and I've always been super passionate about helping businesses because I did business in college, and so I really enjoy that aspect. And then the combination of getting your small tiny little business seen into the world is amazing. So it's definitely there's a lot of benefits to it. But I was overloaded with the numbers and people in a constant hate, and I was starting to hate what I loved doing. And I think that was the main thing that was happening. I was hating what I was doing because people were hating so much, and it was just such a negative environment. Now, I was part of an MLM a few years ago. We'll not talk about that story right now because that's for another day. But I will say it was the best thing and the worst thing that happened to me. because of this. The best thing is because I learned a lot of information about social media and what you should do and what you should not do. And to be totally honest, I really do not regret that aspect of learning it. Now, there were some negative. It was like a lot of it was fake until you make it. Just fake a post, do this. And we've seen this in the past with a lot of MLMs. They just fake it. And I think that social media has taken a bit of a degree turn on that. There are still a lot of people out there that are faking it, but there are quite a few people that are willing to give you, the side of how it really is. And I love that aspect, and I think that's what I took away from that. The third thing that was happening was I was losing myself. I was just losing who I was. I didn't know who I was becoming and what I wanted to be. Now, I had this idea in my head that I had to be this person. Once I started, I had to be this person, and that's the only person that I could ever be on social media. But I realized as a person grows and understands themselves a little bit more, they start to change over time. And you can't fit yourself into a box and stay there for the rest of your life. Now, I referred to Emma Chamberlain in my last video on my main channel, and I'll refer to her again here. She did this really well, and she can do this really well. But it doesn't mean that you can't either. She changed and shifted her, video editing, her person, like not her personality, but who she actually was. Like she felt like this is the person I was going to be. And so for me, I realized that I can do that. It's okay to do that. Like some people will be confused, but the fact is, it is who I am, right? For me, I thought to myself, what is missing? And I think what was missing is, the big part of me is I wasn't even born in Canada. And I think, my accent just kind of disappeared over time. And I think the accent part is really important to me because it's just, oi, geez, donut, scared the life out of me. I think the accent part of it for me is really part of it all. I am, from Northern Ireland, so where did that go? And I think I just made it easier by doing the Canadian accent because then there was no questions, it was just simple. But I lost a piece of my personality, and I think that was the hardest thing. And so I realized to myself, I was talking to someone, I realized to myself, this is who I am. It's part of my personality. It makes me, excited, pumped up, ready to go, and I don't feel anxious and overwhelmed when I'm doing it. Like as my accent and letting it come out. So I think that was a major part in me understanding myself. Another reason was I was physically not doing well either. Overall, my body was feeling the effects of the burnout, but I was also stressed. My body was basically telling me to stop. I had to stop, and I did that for myself, health-wise. So I did want to share some things with you that you can do if you're feeling burnt out. So let's get into those points right now. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is basically stop. And you need to sit down and breathe. That's the main thing that you need to do. You need to take a moment to yourself and say, stop freaking out. That's how I stop, like the motion of being in the negative environment. I sit there and I just do nothing. Oh, sorry, I'm breathing into this mic. I don't want to make a whirlwind in your ear. So are you taking on too many things? Are you doing something you don't really enjoy? Are you more of a social person or the opposite? Ask the questions to get to the root of why you're feeling the way you are. And I think that's important. You need to ask those questions yourself. Why am I feeling this way? What's going on? This is what I did. I love lists, and I sat down and wrote all the things that I had on my plate, and I basically wrote beside them how I'm feeling about them. Like, I don't feel good about this right now, or I do feel good about that. I can continue that. And so I really needed to say to myself what things were actually important and doing something for me. The majority of it all, it just came down to I was doing too much at once. And I do this. I get all into something and I go all in. Right now I'm in kind of a bit of a limbo. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm not doing too much. But at the same time, I'm feeling like I need to do more. But I'm also wary of that, because I'm not sure if I do a wee bit more, I might get overwhelmed. But then once I get into it, I might get too much on my plate. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm just going to have to take my time, take a moment to myself and let it go. Let it just come to the point where I'm all okay with it, Now, I'll give you a backstory here. When I was a server back in the day, when I was a server, I worked at 2 different restaurants, one for 2 years and one for 4 months. And you can really tell which one I enjoyed the most. The one I worked at for 4 months was the worst negative environment that I've ever experienced. And I'll tell you this, guys. It was the worst because I was expected to do several jobs at once. The one job that I was at for 2 years, I was pregnant and I still enjoyed it. Like, it was a wee bit stressful at times, but I enjoyed it. Now, this one that I was at for 4 months was such a negative environment. I had to do like several jobs at once. And it got to the point where my anxiety got so bad that I had to stop. The doctor actually said, you need to stop this job. Like, it's not good for you. And I said that when I was quitting. I was like, the doctor told me, this is not a good environment for you. You need to leave. So that's what I told them. And so that's the thing. I got burnt out because I was doing too many things at once. I was expected to be a server, an expediter, a takeout person, and even sometimes like a bar, like a bar person, whatever you want to call it, and like a salad bar person as well, like a hostess and everything. Like, at one time I was doing like 5 jobs at once, and yet I was expected to serve the customer and give them a good service. You know what I mean? So it was just too much. And I think that kind of goes into whatever I'm doing in the future. Like, if I put too much on my plate, I'm not being effective and efficient. You know what I mean? The second thing that you could do is take time away from the things that are stressing your mind. So you actually, once you finish figuring out what are stressing you out, you need to take time away from that, take a step back and say to yourself, I can't do this. Now, this is not necessarily pertaining to a 9-to-5 job, because you can't necessarily do that. But I will say, if you are doing this as a business, you need to take a step back, or you need to hire someone if you can and let them take on the things that you are a little bit overwhelmed with. And then, take a step back from it. I just took a complete step back because my business, I can do editing on the side. So it's not a complete, shut off. But what I did is I just took a step back from all the major social media things. Now, the third thing is negative people will come. And I think for a fact, knowing that this in your mind, that there's going to be negative people, is important to you, right? So you have to realize this, that social media is a negative environment at times. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. But I'll tell you, there's just a lot of negative people out there wanting to hurt you. So just realize that. Maybe that in itself is a moment in your brain where you can say, okay, this is going to happen. I need to prepare myself mentally. And how can you do that? So I need to step back for myself and say, how can I mentally prepare myself for that moment when someone's going to be super mean to me? And that's really helpful to me. Number 4 is do the things that bring you joy. Okay, so this is something I wanted to start to do. I would pick something each month and do something. Well, this month I did a candle, for goodness sake. And I kind of was like, yeah, that's cool. I could do that. And it was fine. But I think it was because I bought a kit from Walmart and it just wasn't that great. So I think I've actually bought some stuff I might be actually more what's the word I'm trying to say? I would actually enjoy it more. I also made some slime. That was fun for 5 minutes. My mind is kind of all over the place, but I'm trying something new and doing something to change the month, to do something instead of just going into the business and just being the person all the time, the same person. Are you going to start up again? You skip there. Number 5 is you follow people who can help you through it. So not necessarily does everybody have a friend. I don't necessarily have a close friend that's going to say, oh, I understand this, or I can help you figure this out. Nobody is there in that sense, aside from my husband. Now, sometimes he doesn't really understand what I'm talking about, but at least he's there. You need to figure out someone that you can talk to. And this for me is one of the aspects that I don't have. Someone just close that I can say, oh, hey, do you understand this? And they will say yes. Or can you help me understand what I need to do next? And I think my husband does that part pretty good. So finding someone that can help you through it. Another one is starting with something small to get you back into things. So like I talked about the motivation part, it was really difficult to get into it. Like today I had to do this podcast. I wasn't really into it. Again, be honest, I wasn't into it. And I said to myself, you know what? I got this. I had to change my mindset. I'm practicing this a wee bit more. And I'm saying to myself, okay, well, how can I if I do this one thing today, maybe that'll be enough. But then that also triggers something in my mind, I'm saying, okay, I got this podcast done. I can do something else, And that's kind of my mind works. So doing something small, starting something small to get you motivated will really help. So that's basically it. Donut included. He was, chewing in the background. I'm sorry about that if you heard it all. Me and him have moments where we just get on with each other, That is how I feel about, feeling burnt out as a human being. There's multiple things going to go. What are you going to do about it? You need to change your mindset. You need to set goals. You need to sit down and say, what's stressing me out? There's lots of tips there that you can use. And I know there's a lot of people out there that, are stressed out all the time and burnt out. So my advice is to share this with them because it'll really be helpful. And if you're watching on YouTube, well, hi, how you doing? It's nice that you're joining me. But here, if you have any podcast or recordings that you want me to do, please leave it in the comments on YouTube or just let me know in Instagram. I'm catherineperry.co. You can find me over there and DM me and just let me know what you think. Anyways, guys, I hope you're having a good one. Peace out.